as maintained as King Von's, but the reason being is because he has some bleached dreadlocks and then he has some black dreadlocks. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that all of his hair was bleached at one point and then he actually dyed some black dreadlocks. So really interesting take on it. Typically you'll see people just section out hair that they want to bleach and then they'll bleach that hair. Like in this video, we see him dye some of the hair black, so it's really cool. But let's go ahead and talk about his hair type and then we'll move on from there. After we know his hair type, it's easy to tell how he actually started his dreadlocks. So with this hair type, he has roughly about a 4A. Could be peeking into a 4B, and I know a lot of you guys are like, man, I feel like everybody on this channel either has a 4B or a 4C hair type or somewhere in the 4 range. And the reason being, I explain this all the time, is that the 4 range hair types is very suitable for dreadlocks, and typically people that you request have that range of hair type. And why does that happen? Because like I said, it's more suitable for that hair type. It's easier for people with the 4 range hair type to get dreadlocks. Reason number 1, it locks up way quicker. Reason number 2, it locks up way easier. No matter what method you choose, if you do twisting with gel, if you do crochet hooking, if you do interlocking, if you do really any method with the 4 range hair type, it's very easy to lock up and it locks up really quickly. Now when you get into the 3 range, it takes a little bit longer to lock up, and then it really just keeps going on and on when you get lower into the hair types. That's why it takes the 1 hair type longer to lock up than it does the 4 range hair type. So I'll put it this way. The 4 range hair type takes about 2 months to start maturing. The 3 range hair type takes about 4 months to start maturing. And it really just doubles as you get into the different hair types. So the 2 range takes about 6 to 8 months. And the 1 range, literally, if you were to do like a very traditional method, like if you even try to twist with gel, which I do not recommend with a straight hair type, it's most likely going to take around 16 to maybe even 2 years to actually start maturing. And that's just really how it goes. But that's why with the straight hair types, you don't do those kind of methods. You do crochet hook or you do twist and rip. And with those, you can instantly lock up the hair and literally you can have dreadlocks within a day. But that's a whole different method of dreadlocks. But with him being in the 4 range of hair types, it makes it very easy to lock up. One thing that's really interesting that you notice later on is that he actually trims his dreadlocks. And a lot of people do this. We see Lil Pump do this, we've seen Lil Uzi Vert do this. And typically if someone has dreadlocks in the celebrity community or the rapper community, they typically trim their dreadlocks. It's just a thing that people do just because they like that style or they like that length. And it's actually very popular for people to actually do that. And that's just one indication that they are doing it for the style and not for anything else. And in my opinion, I think if you're doing it for the style, it's really cool because you're able to try different hairstyles, you're able to try different methods and so on and so forth. But a clear indication that he actually trims his dreadlocks, if you look at the tip, there's a straight cut right across from the tips, and that's just an indication that you trim your dreadlocks. And the proper way to actually trim dreadlocks is to cut them and then crochet hook the tip back down, because typically what happens when you trim the dread, it wants to fray at the tip and then you want to pull that all back in with the crochet hook. One thing we are starting to notice after he trimmed his dreadlocks is that they almost appear more maintained or more uniform. And even looking at this photo, we're able to see how kind of frizzy his hair is. And the reason being is because he kind of semi-freeforms his hair. Although his hair is very maintained, considering if he were to do freeform, he has that kind of young thug style of dreadlocks, so it looks like somewhere down the line he maintained it, but at the same time, there's not much maintenance going on because you see skinny dreadlocks in the front, you see some thicker ones in the back, and they look a little bit more uniform in the middle, but overall, it's not a strict maintenance method that he did in order to get his dreadlocks. So he for sure didn't do twisting with gel because they would be way more uniform. And I didn't find any photos dating back to when he actually started his dreadlocks, but looking at them, it looks like he probably started out with more of a loose method, like just allowing his hair to lock up on its own and then taking it afterward and just twisting it, or doing sponge rub and then creating the sections and then starting to maintain the dreadlocks doing twisting with gel and things like that. But it is more of a loose style of dreadlocks. And the reason I call it a loose style is because he's not strictly doing like twisting with gel or crochet hooking. And even on some of the dreadlocks in the front, you can see that his tips are very curly. So that just goes to show that he's not doing any crochet hooking or any very strict method. Alright guys, in my mind, this is one of the most recent photos I could find of him. It was a good photo of his hair. Obviously his hair is still short from when he trimmed it. And we do see that he has the pink color in there. And we also notice that he has a high top fade with his dreadlocks. So in my opinion, I think having the high top fade with the dreadlocks makes it a lot easier to actually style your hair. And it makes the dreadlocks look more clean, even with how his dreadlocks are not being, perfect sections. Even if you look down at the roots, it doesn't look like he has any perfect sections. Obviously his sections don't go all the way down to his scalp, and that's just because he's not creating the sections and doing twisting with gel. But overall, he has a really cool set of dreadlocks, and it would have been nice to be able to see his dreadlocks further back and see when he started them. But hopefully all the information I gave you guys today will kind of lead you in the right direction on how to get dreadlocks like him. And really, just to top it off, he has